All right, very good. So, welcome everybody. We are very, very fortunate today that we have Hal Sweasey here to talk to us about listing property. And I say this all the time, and I really do mean it. And I've shared this story with Hal before, just to give you all a little bit of context on my thoughts on this guy. I just coach and train agents now. I don't actively sell. And so when you go to a Mike Ferry retreat, he'll always say, "Who's the best listing agent you know?" And you're supposed to say yourself, but I know I don't actively sell. So whenever he says that, I say Hal Sweasey. That's my response. Who's the best listing agent you know is Hal Sweasey. So the fact that we get the honor and privilege of 45 minutes with this guy here is just a delight. And what I want to make sure everyone understands too is Hal's in San Luis Obispo, which is just a couple hours up the road from where most of you are at. I bring that up because sometimes we do, Neil does interviews with people and some agents like, oh yeah, but they're in a different market. Of course they can do 100 deals in Michigan, course they can do 100 deals in Utah. Well, he's doing 100 deals in Central Southern California, so no excuses for what he's doing. So everyone, do me a favor, unmute yourselves, give this man a warm and welcome because he is very busy and he's taking time out of his day to spend some time with Century 21 Masters. So Hal,
Yay!
Welcome,
Welcome.
Hal.
Thank you, Hal.
Welcome.
Hal,
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you,
thank you,
Hal.
thank
Fabulous.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So
Thank you so much.
as I said, a little bit of background, San Luis Obispo area, 100 plus deals a year, 20 plus years, always on stage at the Mike Ferry Superstar Retreats, just a superstar, rock star real estate agent. So again, Hal, can't thank you enough for taking the time with us today. So I want to jump right into this, and we're talking about the listing presentation, mastering the listing presentation, taking more listings in this particular marketplace. So Hal, what would you say? Let's break this down into categories. For the agents that are on here that are newer or doing somewhere from 0 to 5 listings a year, what would you say is important for them to get to 10, from 0 to 5 to 10? What's important for that particular group?
Yeah, well, I mean, if I look back in my own career, and trust me, I was very present at 0 to 5 and 0 to 10 and 10 to 20. A lot of it is really being able to communicate with people just in a fashion that makes them feel comfortable. So obviously the scripts are super important. And I think where people get caught up in the scripts, they get caught up with the words, but it's how you present something. Okay, so somebody, a famous actor, can get paid thousands of dollars for a 30-second advertisement where they say some words, but it's how they're said. And you can't say them that way unless you do it enough times. So you have to own the scripts, and there's only like 4 or 5 questions. I mean, I'm embarrassed to tell you guys this. I'll go to a cocktail party and I'll meet someone and go, oh, well, gosh, where are you from? Well, how long have you lived at current house? And where did you live before that? I mean, I'm usually the just listed or just sold script in a social situation. So I mean, I'm not asking them to list their home, but I'm just saying that you learn a series of questions on how to respond so that your communication becomes better. Okay. I can't see everybody, but by a raising of hands, how many of us have lost a listing to someone we thought probably wasn't as good, experienced, or did as good a job as we would do? Anybody ever have that happen? Just raise your hands if you did. Hello. So why did they win and we lose, so to speak? Right. So
Gone.
I thought I froze. I was like, damn it, I froze, but it looks like Hal's gone. All right, hold on. Let me get him back. All right, well, he's coming on. All right, well, that was Hal Sweasey, everybody. Thank you for coming. And And there he goes. All right, let's see if he can get him back here.
Oh no, I waited so long for this.
He'll be back on. He's got a good team. So while we're waiting for that, I want you to kind of piggyback off what Hal was saying. Write down these numbers: 7, 38, 55. 7, 38, 55. Because what Hal was talking about, and when he gets back on here, he'll probably allude to a little bit more of this. But what Hal was talking about is it's not just the words, it's how you present them. The rules of effective communication, the 7 is 7% words. Effective communication is 7% the words that you use. Okay. For those of you that are just hopping on, Hal had a little bit of technical difficulty. He'll be back on here in a minute. 7% is the words that you use. 35% is tonality. I'm sorry, 38. 38% is tonality. Okay, so 7% is words, 38% is tonality, and the other 55% is body language. That's the breakdown of effective communication. So when Hal was just talking about, and again, he'll be back on here in a minute, I'm sure. What Hal was just talking about is exactly that. It's not just the words you use, it's how you present them. But you have to remember that effective communication is just that. It's 7% words, 38% tonality, 55% body language. Now, is there body language when you're on the phone? Yes.
Yes.
The answer is
Yeah,
yes.
there is.
Yeah, the answer is
Reduced,
yes.
but
Because if my body language, if I'm sitting down like this, all right, Aaron says it, legend has it, Hal is still presenting in another dimension. It's possible. But my body language on the phone is, yeah, we just listed a home for sale, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's hard for me to be excited when my body language is kind of slumped over, things along those lines. But if I'm standing up and I'm moving, right, then the body language makes all the difference in the world. So body language matters, even when you're on the phone. All right. Did we get Hal back yet? Not yet. All right, he's working on it. All right, so make sure you have that written down. But the tonality of which you use the words that you use, okay? So it's like if you were talking to a dog, right? If I tell a dog, right, you're such a terrible dog. You're such a bad dog. You're such an awful dog. What's the dog's tail gonna do?
Wag.
I mean, wag. You're such a terrible dog. You're awful. The dog. But if I go, you're such a good girl. You're such a good girl. Good girl. What's the dog going to do? Tail's going to go between its legs. It's all about tonality. So the words make a little bit of the difference. The tonality and the body language make more of a difference. All right, good stuff. All right, let me see if I can get him back on here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there he is.
I love technology. Okay,
What are you
cool.
going to do? What are you going to do? All
So
right,
what was the
very
last
good.
thing you heard me say? Anything?
What'd you say?
What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing, hello. I'm just kidding.
Hello?
You were talking about going from that it's not about the words that you use, it's how you present them.
Great, right. And the
Okay.
reason we learn the script, quite honestly, is so that we can add the nuance, just like a good actor delivering a line in a movie, right? So learn the words, go to the, productivity schools. You've got the benefit of a phenomenal broker and phenomenal training with Robert and your team. You've got people in your office. I mean, if you're willing to put in that time, you're going to go from 0 to 10 to 20 on up. So that doesn't go away, just so you know. I would say the second thing is, I don't know about you guys, but are you in a marketplace where maybe there's not as many listings as we've seen in the past, right?
Yes.
So how are we going to find more listings? Okay, there's lots of ways to do it. I just know for me, when I was starting out, I didn't know anybody. I was in a small market. We didn't really have very many expired listings. So I just called around listings and sales all the time.
Well, shit.
We lost him again.
Now you've got me on record cursing.
You did that last week, the
Robert,
last.
feel like you're
But I wasn't
missing
recording last week.
Oh, okay.
Robert, you're in trouble now.
Oh boy. All right. Okay. Well, let's see
Robert,
here.
you can suggest him to call you from the phone. Then he gonna use a cellular data, so it's not gonna be out of internet then.
But we want to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do
let's see.
Zoom on the cellular data, and then there is no interruption.
Well, I'm going to eat my orange for lunch.
All right, let me text him. All right. All right. So we'll get him back in here. All right, very good.
Robert, what was the last thing he said? He said he would call. Did he say Fizzles or he said he would call who?
He would call. I think the last thing he said is you have great training and coaching with Robert and the company. I think that's the last note I took. I'm just kidding. That was the last note that I took. What he was saying is that he didn't know anybody. And so he was calling around the listings and sales in the area doing just listed, just sold scripts because he didn't have a database of people that he knew. So he was just calling around the area, trying to know people or trying to get to in front of people, trying to get people's information. So what I would say to, because we were starting out the conversation, those from 0 to 5 want to get to 10, and that's where the next part of the conversation was going to get from if you're already doing 10 to 20, how to get to 30 and so on and so forth. But what I would say on that particular comment to Hal's point, and I'm sure he'll get on here in just a minute, is as he said, there's less listings in the marketplace, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So since there's less listings, you have to expand your prospecting area. Okay. I got to tell you, unless you have a farm that you've been farming for 10, 15, 20 years, and you've got a consistent number of business in that farm, this is not a market for farmers. Okay. Because I say that because it's just simple math. If I'm farming an area that has 500 homes, well, it was 500 homes. The number of deals I could get from that 500 homes 2 years ago is less than today. So I have to expand the marketplace. So kind of to what Hal was saying for those beginnings, you go around the listings, you call people in different neighborhoods to try to get to know people. When there's less listings, you have to expand your marketplace. So there he is. Hal Sweasey, how are you, sir?
Good. We don't get internet in San Luis Obispo. I'm sorry. Somehow we still operate a business, but you guys are patient. Thank you. Okay. So
all right. So let's say the person now they're already doing 10 to 15 listings a year.
Yes.
All right. So they've got some business, they're doing some production. How does a 10 to 15 listing agent go to 25 to 30?
Well, I would say this. At some point you're getting close to it, you'll find out that you've got to be a little less attached to buyer business. So it's so much easier if you get a buyer call to show them houses, to look at for homes, do that sort of thing, versus spending time on the phone, prospecting, working your database, calling expires and FSBOs, and getting the listings because the buyers will follow. All right. So when I was new, every attempt I made, whether it was a listing or sale, was like 1 for 1. When you get listings, and especially in today's economy, and probably for the last 5 to 7 years with a good seller's market, every listing equals like a deal and a half to 2.5 deals. So the more you focus on listings, the more you can control your time. Okay. The more opportunities you get and the more buyers that come to you that are qualified, because a lot of buyers want, as much as we want them to think they want us to help them, is they just want the right house. So I see it more prevalent, and you guys let me know because I can't see on my screen. But it's more prevalent now that they go to a listing agent. Right? So does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Okay.
we have to let go of what we're used to. It's like going from elementary school or junior high to high school, or from high school to college. You have to let go of some stuff to take the next level. So a lot of it is buyers. You're not giving up on them, but you're just really limiting your time to focus on buyer business versus expanding your time on seller business. And again, the real point, the thing that you will not know before you make that commitment and take that jump, is you will get more and better buyers by having good quality listings. Okay. So I would say for sure. Again, I'm going to go back to the skills, but that's a huge, huge factor.
You know, I've never heard anyone say what you just said, which is you'll actually get better buyers from the listings you're taking as opposed to focusing on the buyer business. That I never heard anyone say that before. That's really good.
Yeah.
Wow, good stuff.
You
We lost them again.
Ay, Dios mío.
Ay, Dios mío, too.
Now you've heard me curse in 2 languages.
You just have to say patience, Grasshopper.
Dios mío is not a cuss word.
This is what happens when you invite a lot of people.
Your headphones off and rub the inner earlobe, Robert, and it will all be okay.
I made a special knife for this.
It's never going to be okay, damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, you said a bad word.
That's three. That's
Patience,
three.
Robert.
Yeah, it's patience is right up my alley.
You're eating your lunch too?
All right.
Too.
Okay. So, but while we're waiting for Hal to get back on here, so to the point that he just said, I never heard anyone say that before, but this is really important. When you get to a point, if you want to consistently generate listings, you want to do 15, 20 plus listings a year, you are going to have to, at some point, limit the number of buyer leads that you're willing to work with. So Jack in our office, we have a deal with him. He's only allowed to have 2 buyer leads at a time. Now, but here's what happens. When you have 2 buyer leads, that means you're only working with the 2 best buyers you have, which means they're probably going to go into escrow. So if he generates a buyer lead today, he has to decide, is that buyer lead better than any of the 2 buyer leads I have? And if it's not, he has to refer it out. But if it is, guess what? He bumps the lowest quality buyer lead for the new better buyer lead. So the 2 buyer leads he's working at all times are probably going to close escrow. Okay, because he's only working with 2 buyer leads, so he's 100% focused on sellers. Now, you don't have to get rid of the buyer leads. You can refer them to another agent and get a referral fee or split the deal or whatever the case may be. So there's options there. But if you do want to generate listings at a high level, at some point you are going to need to have that conversation with yourself on what do I do with generating these buyer leads. But the other thing that he mentioned here that I think is really important for everyone to hear, and I want you to hear me out on this while he's coming back on. He said that every listing should generate between 1 and 1.5 deals. I am absolutely convinced that when you have a listing, you have a golden ticket. Every list, if you don't generate another deal from that listing, you've wasted an opportunity. So hear me out on this. If the listing is priced right, is it going to sell?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, everyone agrees listing's priced right, so it's going to sell. So really, when you take the listing, it's already sold. That part's done, it's over. The hard part's getting the listing, but if it's priced right, it's going to sell, so it's over. The selling part's over. That's done. All your job now is just to negotiate, but the selling part's over. So when you're making just listed calls, are you making the just listed call with the mentality of I'm promoting my listing, or are you making it with the mentality I need to generate another deal?
I need to generate another deal.
Because how many buyers, for those of you that take listing, how many buyers have come from a just listed call that you made out? Almost very, very, very little. But it's a mentality shift. of saying, I have this listing. This listing needs to generate another deal. So if I'm going to call the neighborhood, I'm not calling to promote the listing because it's priced right. It's already sold. It's done. I'm calling the listing is just the warm introduction for me to open up a conversation with them so I can find out if I can get another deal with them. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. If you walk away from a listing and you didn't generate another deal out of it, I think you've really lost an opportunity there. But it's a mind shift. So I had an agent call me from Arizona, Mike Ferry agent, and they called me and they just wanted to pick my brain. And they said, my coach wants me to go to 80 deals this year. And I said, okay. And I said, well, what'd you do last year? So I did 56. I said, okay. He goes, well, I wanted to pick your brain. How do I get to 80 deals? And I said, well, how many listings are you going to take this year? So he said, probably about 40. I said, okay, if you take 40 listings, you generate one more deal from each listing, that's 80. There you go. Thank you. Have a good day. And she just paused for a second and she was just like, wait, what just happened? And I was like, you wanted to get to 80 deals. I just told you how to get to 80 deals. I said, it's that simple. Take 40 listings, generate one deal from each listing. And there's your 80. And she never really thought of it that way. And she said, well, how do I generate a deal from each listing? And then when I told her exactly that, I said, stop trying to sell your listing. It's already sold. Instead, the prospecting is to generate a deal. Okay. You're trying to sell the listing. That's a waste of time. Let's try to generate a deal. And no one had ever told her that before. So the next week she calls me. She said, I took a listing. I changed my mentality. I'm not trying to sell the listing. That's just my introduction. I ended up having that mentality. I've got to find another deal. And I set 3 appointments off of that listing that I just set. And it was just a mindset shift, which I followed up with her recently because I wanted to know how she was on track for the 80 deals. And she's probably going to do 80 deals this year. And most of it is taking listings and then generating a deal from each listing. So you should be generating at least one deal from every listing that you take. All right. And Hal, if you're on here on your phone or anything, let me know. And then if we're waiting for him. All right. And then I see here in the chat box, how do you still provide quality service by referring out or giving the buyer to a showing agent versus showing yourself, especially when the expectation is you are the one helping them write an offer? Also, how do you make that transition, establish that trust when they go from closed transaction to now a past client if you never met them once you had a buyer consultation? Okay, great question. It's all about setting the expectation up front. So if I generate a buyer lead, I'm setting the expectation up front. Mr. and Miss Buyer, I'm so happy that you're going to work with me. Now, here's the deal. I'm still going to be involved in the transaction. I'm going to help you negotiate. I'm going to help, I'm going to be there, whenever anything important. But my colleague, John over here, my colleague's the one that's going to be showing you property. It's going to be the one talking to you about the market, writing up offers for you, things like that. But I'm here in case you need anything. Now, John doesn't have to be on your team, could just be another agent that you're referring deals out to. But as long as you set the expectation up front with them, then you probably won't have a problem doing anything along those lines. So that's just how I do it. Just let them know that you are still available if they need anything or if they have any questions or anything that you can answer. And sometimes you may have to step in. Sometimes a client may reach out to you and say, well, I'm trying to get this house closed, but blah, blah, blah. You might have to step in a little bit, but that is how you would make that transition. Now, your other question was, how do you make the transition, establish that trust from a closed transaction to now a past client? Well,
Thanks.
the reality is if you're referring the deal out, it's hard to now make them a past client of yours because the other agent was the one that really closed it. So you have to kind of be careful around that. Plus, you also want to make sure that the other agent understands, not to say that no one can hog all the leads, but you want to make sure that there's an understanding of how that's going to go.
He's
All
back.
Right,
I'm back. I'm in a new office. Sorry, you guys. It's embarrassing. Are we ready to have some fun?
Oh, well, I mean, if you think you feel bad, imagine how they feel. They have to hear me yammer when you disappear for.
Okay.
You know?
The thing I think about is a little bit maybe building our sphere of influence.
You know what's amazing though, how in just the some of the stuff that you've said is already very powerful, and it's allowed us to just talk about that just from the time that you're away. So very good. Okay, so then the third thing is for the agents that are already doing 25, 30 plus listings a year, how do they get to 50?
Well, I would say if you're having 25 listings a year, what's your average commission? I know you cover a large geographic area.
The company is probably about 13,000.
13,000, and you sell 20 of those, you're making $360,000. Is that right? No, 260.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. 260, and you got some buyer sales. So you're making really good, that's a good income. So honestly, I think to go to the next level, you have to really back out what it costs you to live. You have to figure out what you want to do, because by the time in California, which we're all here, you pay taxes, you have a lifestyle, there's not much left over. So you really need a big goal. Okay, and what is it? Do I want to buy a new house, a new car? Do I want to set money aside to start buying investment property? Those types of things. So the problem is at 20 to 50 to 35, those types of deals, you're making good money. It's easy to get stuck there. Okay, it's really easy. So you have to hang around people that are doing more than you're doing. So if you're taking 25 to 30 listings a year, you're probably pretty high in the company, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Yeah. So you really have to get outside that. So I was a 50 to 75 deal a year producer for, I don't remember, 8 or 10 years or that sort of thing. And I joined that Think Big group, and I was around people taking 100 listings. And I finally realized if I ever want to get to 100 deals, I have to take at least 100 listings. And that's all I focused on. So first year I did 93, didn't break it. The next year I did 112 after, several years. And then I got to 100. Then things just really roll from there. So I got to tell you guys, you're not going to get busier. You're going to learn how to do your job more efficiently. So you've got to make the next jump, make bigger commitments to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to your coaches, so that you know what that driving force is. And I would recommend taking that money away. Here's what I mean. If you're making 260 now, and you go from, we want to say 25 to, let's say 50, which is a huge jump, two more listings a month. Okay, let's think about the numbers. That's 24. If you sell 70% of them, okay, so what is that? Let's call it 18 more deals at 15,000, right? That's about a $200,000 bump with how much extra money? Not much. Okay, there's going to be expenses. So then you're going to get taxed. So take half of that away. Now you're at 100. Okay, can you do something with $100,000? And that's with a big jump. And what would it be? Okay, so maybe you don't have that one thing where you're putting a down payment or whatever. Maybe you just automatically have $10,000 a month pulled out of your business account or your personal account. Tell you what, I don't know about you guys. For me, the motivation of being broke is way stronger than the motivation of the shiny thing that can be delayed. Okay, so accountability and exposure are huge to go to the next level at any level, but more importantly, when you're a successful agent.
Got it. Great. So the next thing here, Hal, is you talked about efficiency, which kind of lines up with what's your closing rate on the listing presentations you go on?
This is the lowest I've been right now at 78%.
78%. Okay. And yeah, that is low for you. And it's obviously because a lot of different factors in the marketplace. But I would say if you're at 78, most agents are 30, 40 at best. So now if you get the listing appointment, what are the keys to getting to a 70, 80, 90% close rate on the appointments that you're setting?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think one of the things I said earlier, I don't know if it came across to the group, but who has lost a listing to an agent that they thought they were better than, that really they think they did a good job? Yeah, so we've all done that. So there's no magic formula to getting the listing, right? So when I was earlier in my career, I was very serious about it, and I was probably too serious, which was probably a little off-putting, right? And I was losing, listings to amiables or whatever. So I think the key, every communication you have is so important, and probably the pre-qualification, especially in today's marketplace, is the most important. Now, I don't know if you're a normal group and nobody's going to respond, but let's say you're not normal. And does anybody have any reservations? Okay, let's be abnormal about pre-qualifying and asking some questions before you go on a listing appointment. Anybody come up with something?
Safe place.
Tyrone's mouth is moving, but I don't see any. I don't hear him. Can you guys hear him?
No.
No.
Okay. So, hey, don't want to come off as maybe too pushy. If I ask the right question and I don't get the right answer, maybe I don't have an appointment. There's lots of reasons not to. Let's switch it around. If somebody calls you up and says, I want to buy a house, and do you ask them some questions?
Yes.
Yeah. What? Give me one question you might want to ask them.
When do you plan on moving?
Okay. When
Have
do
you,
That's great. What
have
else
you
would
spoken with, have you spoken with the lender?
Have you spoken to a lender, right? Can you afford a house? Good. What's another question?
What is your motivation? What is your motivation?
What is your motivation? Okay, how soon? Motivation, very similar. Timing, right? Okay, so let's say you went to a real estate agent, they asked you those 3 questions, and then they start showing you houses for $6 million. Okay, or you want a house on the beach and they're showing you inland houses. Okay, is it important to know what they want?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, so the pre-qualifying for a seller is the same thing. It's not so much what they want, because it's like, well, they just want to get out of this house. Well, okay, why, where, when, how, and most importantly, how do they want it? Right? So my pre-qualification, I follow Mike Ferry's script. I'm pretty darn assumptive. And when I say assumptive, there's nuances you can take with the question. Is like, how much do you owe on the property is one way to find out what the loan is. Okay. Hey, when I sell your house, hey, Armin, how much, what's the loan we'll need to get paid off when we close? A little more assumptive, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
100,000.
great. So you got to be assumptive. And so the qualification is super important, but you also have to have fun with it, right? So you can't go to a doctor like Mike Ferry says and have them not ask those questions. So I got to say, one, get over yourself when it comes to asking the questions, but come from a place of being able to help them. Put yourself in the seller's shoes, right? What if they don't want a for sale sign and you didn't even cover how that works? Or what if they said, I don't want a lockbox on my house, and you didn't ask those questions, okay? So, when does the photographer come, right? So you have 2 ways to approach the situation. You've set the appointment, and you can go full on hardcore sell yourself, okay? Can you usually smell that?
Yes.
Me, this is why I'm better than anybody else. Or you can come in as if you already have the listing and talk about the process, which is somewhat assumptive. Okay. Hey, so when we meet on Monday at 4 o'clock, we're going to go over, 1, the price of the home. Is that important for you to know? Oh yeah, price is important. Great. 2, like timing. So for example, in your mind, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, how soon did you want us to have the photographer coming out and taking pictures? Oh, well, we're not ready for that. Okay, great. So what do we need to do to get ready? Well, I need to, wash this and do that. All right, great. Is that something you're going to handle yourself, or do you want us to recommend some people to help you with? Well, I don't know. Well, for most people, it's easier just to get a professional in there, get it done sooner, better, and faster. Do you want sooner, better, faster? Yeah, okay, so we can talk about that. When I get there, we're going to talk about little things we might want to do to either get you more money or make the house more saleable. In your mind, what do you think needs to happen? Okay. How soon do you think you'd be ready to have a show you buyers? Right. When we take the photography, is there anything special you want to have pointed out? Okay. When we get your loan paid off, okay, is there anything else you want to do? So what I'm saying is these are assumptive questions about the process, and it's probably good to work those in. Okay, I'll switch it to buyers. Hey, when we make the offer, have you thought about what an earnest money deposit is or how much you want to put down? Well, I don't know. What is it? Well, 1%'s low, 3%'s high. In this market, I recommend 3%. Do you have the $30,000 it might take to make a deposit? Oh yeah, we have that. So the pre-qual is really, really about getting them so prepared that really you're just kind of fine-tuning the price, okay, and how the process is going to work, versus saying this is why we're wonderful.
So you're doing all of this on the prequal. So when you get to the house on the listing, that's what you're saying right there, is really the listing appointment is just fine-tuning the price and maybe anything about that. That's what you're saying there.
Right, price and a little more in process, right? So, but again, how important is it to know how soon they think their house is going to be ready? Because, oh, I want to meet with a realtor. We're excited to sell our house. And we're going to, we're in the middle of a bath remodel and it's going to be done in 3 months. Well, you can go out, but you're probably not going to take a listing, right? So you make that business decision. I'm not saying which way is right or wrong, but knowing that's super important, right? And I would say this, no matter whether you're going to meet with a buyer or a seller, no matter whether you're in escrow and you're trying to figure out when you represent a seller, what to do with this $10,000 request, okay? If you're getting an offer, if you're making an offer, we always want to give people choices, okay? Because there's a lot for the clients, there's a lot to think about. And I usually like to give them 3, right? So like Mike Ferry, when we're done today, 1 of 3 things is going to happen. Number 1, you'll list the property with me. That'd be great. Number 2, you may decide not to list the property with me. Or if I felt I can't do the right job for you, of course I wouldn't take your listing. Any one of those is fine. Okay. So you get a request for repairs for a seller or buyer, and it's $10,000 either way. Somebody's going to come up with 10 grand or something that's to happen. Hey, I boil it down to list. Hey, it's pretty straightforward. We can just say no, okay, which is an option. We can say yes, or let me go to work and see if we can't keep this thing together and save everybody some money. Would you like to see it stay together, or do you okay just cutting the cord? Well, no, we don't really want to cut the cord. Okay, great. And if it turned out if you had to, take a $10,000 reduction to get the sale to go to the finish line, is that something you guys would even consider? Not would you take it, would you even consider it? I just want them to say, we would consider it. Okay? I'm not pinning them down to the 10 grand. We're just trying to make headway. Because nobody wants to know, when you get into real estate, nobody told you if you made 100 phone calls a day, you'd probably be really successful, right? We go, hey, let's get you to 10, right? Let's just get you on the phone, and then you get some rhythm, then it's easier. So always give them options, all right? So gosh, in the pre-qual, when we meet, okay, anything, can you describe your home for me? Well, it's this, and that. Great. Do you feel we're ready for showings, or in your mind, is there anything we need to do? Well, I'm not sure. Great. Would you like me to go over that when we meet? Yes, let's do that. Excellent. If I wasn't there or somebody was advising you, anything you think we need to do for the house, because I got to tell you guys, I get caught up in a lot of that. It's okay, right? I'm okay with that, but I need to make sure I'm positioning myself to list the property. Okay. So the pre-qual starts with your mindset. All those questions need to be about them. Okay. And so if I'm doing a multiple counter offer, and I'll share something I've learned from Neil Weichel, and I've got this script written down, and I've gotten fairly good at it. So, hey, they've told you they're interviewing several agents. Our meeting's, Monday at 4:00. Gosh, since you guys are interviewing a few questions, can I ask you, or a few agents, can I ask you a few questions? Okay. Oh, sure. Can you tell me what you're looking for in the real estate you select? Because I want to make sure I do a great job for you. Well, the price is important, the commission, and we want to know what's going on. Great. Okay. You've been kind enough to share with me what's the most important to you guys. Obviously, price is important. How much you're going to net's important. Okay. How we arrange the showings and what that's going to look like, certainly important. Can I share with you what the most important thing to me is? Sure. Hey, when we meet Robert on Monday, I want to make sure that before we get your home listed, my only goal is at the end of our time together, from the meeting we have to getting the photography done, to keeping you posted, to negotiating the top dollar for you, to get you to that important finish line and get your money out of this house and get you down to San Diego, that it's the best real estate experience you've ever had. So when we meet, this is going to be 100% about you as the seller and what we can do to help you achieve that goal. Is there anything else you would need when we discuss, when we meet on Monday? No. So again, we're just kind of setting that up, right? And there are sometimes I won't get that done in the pre-qual, but I'll sit down and just start with that. Hey, listen, this is a very serious decision you're about to make. I get that, okay? And at the same time, I want to do such a great job for you that this is your best real estate experience. Because when we're done, I'll know I've done my job. Is if after we close, if anybody calls you up and asks you, hey, who do you know? Do you know a real estate agent? Oh my gosh, you got to call up Jake and talk to him because he did a great job, everything start to finish for us. I want to be that person for you. So that's what we're going to fill on. If you can help me do that by sharing with me what's important to you today in our meeting, that would be super helpful. Okay. Can I ask you a few questions? So I'm spilling a lot of information out there, but I just want to share with you some of the things that can help improve your presentation.
No, it's great. It's great. The assumptive part of that is really neat and kind of reminded me of when Mike talks about going through the plan of action. It's a very assumptive. You do want me to post it on the MLS, right? Yes. Like all those types of things. It's just what you reminded me of, but I've never had anyone break it down this way on the prequel on the assumptive part of that. Very good. So really appreciate that. As far as objection handling goes, is there any specific tips or different things you have there on handling objections while you're at the presentation?
Yeah, I think it's important to know, and part of the prequel is to find what those objections are. Is the commission a big deal to the seller, right? Is how the house shown. We don't really know what it is. For us, probably commission is the biggest deal, right?
Right.
And if it's a big deal for you, how do you feel internally? Like if you feel like you're going to battle for your commission in here, right here, how does that feel? Probably not the best feeling, right?
No, it's not good at all.
So we kind of have to set that apart, and it's not easy to do because let's face it, there can be gaps between things. There's other pressures going on. There's our ego yelling at us, gosh, if you don't get this listing, you suck, and trust me, it happens to all of us, right? It's right here. So we got to realize how important that is. So when it comes to objection handling, we really want to get objections, because if we don't, and they say yes, they're not really saying yes, and there's going to be problems later. Okay. I'll give you guys an objection. Where I live, with interest rates, you guys are similar. It's very low turnover. So I've been fortunate. People will call me up and we got to sell mom's house. Mom passed away. So I'm sitting on a presentation and these people are interviewing several agents. And I got a brother, a sister, and another brother, and then another sister who isn't there. So I'm doing my best to try to secure a listing. And I think it went well. So I asked them, hey, you guys, they're not going to sign with me right there. Is there any reason you guys wouldn't hire me? And the one guy says, well, yeah, I kind of heard you take advantage of like little old ladies. Oh, okay, fair enough. Great. So let me ask you this. If that turned out that it wasn't the case, and we're going to sign a listing today, if we could solve that one and answer that question, would there be any other reason why you wouldn't want to hire me? And the answer was, well, no, I don't think so. They were all convinced, right? They got one more sister. I couldn't get her to the meeting. So, and I kind of described, hey, you know what? When I was early in my career, I'm calling around. A lot of times I would just meet little old ladies because they didn't know a real estate agent, and I would sell their house. And now somebody thought maybe it was too low or too high. But, if you guys looked at my reviews online, hey, we got a lot of them. If you want to talk to any of my clients, they're going to tell you your best interests are mine. In fact, I actually learned from one occasion how to do that, where I call every family member and say, hey, is it okay that mom sells the house? Here's what we're going to do. So I basically countered that. But if I wouldn't have done that, there's a good chance I would have lost that listing. In fact, I had sold the neighbor's house and they went down and interviewed him. And the one sister is the one who didn't show up, who was the one who was not a fan of mine. So what did I learn by that? We brought it out, right? It might be, your office is too far away. They don't want to say it. If I come, to Ruth Camino's house and I go, Ruth, I'm selling you this water treatment system. It looks great. You kind of want to buy it, but you have some hesitation because you don't know if it's going to last very long. Are you going to sign with me or buy the darn thing? Probably not. Right. So it's really about uncovering those objections and then kind of like I did, isolating it. Hey, Hal, we do not like your 6% commission, right? There's just no way this is going to happen. Okay, I get it, right? It's a lot of money. Hey, gosh, Robert, if we can agree on the commission, did you want to go ahead and list the property with me? Well, yeah. Well, first of all, the commission is not going to be a reason we won't. We're going to work this out. And then I would handle the objection on the commission, right? So flushing it out is important. Asking, why wouldn't you hire me? Give them the opportunity to tell you why, right? It's a safe place. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I would try to be that honest. And then I'm not being very fun here, but usually if I'm my best, we're joking around a little bit, right? So you got to have fun with people, right? It's attractive, right? Have some fun, smile, enjoy yourself, tease them a little bit, right? If there's a husband and wife, kind of pit them against each other and relate because, hey, listen, I'm married, I get it, right? So those things will help you guys.
One of the things that I saw you do once before on having some fun and teasing is you were talking about the marketplace of saying, look, I don't determine the market, it's those darn buyers.
Right.
And so I saw you do that
Love it when
one
they buy
time.
your
And that
house,
was great.
right?
Right. Those darn buyers. All right, good stuff. Okay. Hal, it's 1 o'clock. Do you got a hard stop? You got a couple minutes?
I have a couple minutes, sure.
Okay. You open for a couple questions?
Yeah.
All right. So Weston, go ahead, Weston.
Perfect. Well, I had send a message to Robert earlier when right before you had technical difficulties. So you're saying earlier about in order to increase your business to limit the amount of buyer sales that you do and try to either get a showing agent or a buyer agent to take them out for you. So if you do that, how do you still provide the quality of service, especially when the expectation is you're the one that's going to be helping with them or writing the offer to buy the home?
Okay, that's a really good question. Let me put a little more context on it, Weston, for you. What are you in the 10 to 20, 5 to 10 range, newish? What like range wise?
25 to 30.
20, okay, so you're making great production. Great. So it's not so much that I don't handle it. What I'm saying is make sure you're focusing on listings first, because I used to just have a buyer and go, maybe I'll just try to do some buyer work when I should be prospecting or presenting or practicing. Okay. So I'm not saying give them away necessarily.
Okay.
Now, I do give every buyer away. I don't work with any buyers. I just bought a house. I didn't write the offer myself. But here's what I say. I go, hey, so Weston, if you go to a doctor and you got trouble with your elbow, like the joint is really sore, you go to an orthopedic person and they go, this looks great, but I think what you have is some muscle damage. So I'm going to send you to a physical therapist. Are you going to go, well, screw you. I came here to get my arm fixed by you. No. So it's just like, listen, love you. I've got an associate who helps me with this process, whether it's in the escrow, getting a listing ready, or a buyer, which is a big one. And her name is, or his name is so-and-so, and whatever relationship you have, okay? They specialize in that area, right? You want to look in Orange County, this person in my office, or I'm saying to, they're going to do the best job for you. Do you think that act makes them think that you're concerned about you or them?
More about them.
Yeah. So I would get over referring stuff out. Now you need to set it up like, hey, here's why. This person knows this market inside and out, just sold several homes there. I would love to be your best choice. If somebody wants commercial property sold, I can't help you. I mean, I'd love to, but it's just not my thing. Go call Mark Anderson, man. He is the best. Done.
All right. Perfect. And then follow-up question that, so once you do that and the transaction is done, how do you make that transition to now they're in your database and you're establishing that trust that's saying, hey, I'm your agent. If you have a referral for me, call me.
Okay, really good question. So for you specifically, let's get specific. Are you referring it out to an agent in the company, someone else, or is this like an arrangement you've made with a buyer's agent just to do specifically for you?
Right now I'm showing the buyer's property myself. So let's just say, for example, it's a showing agent or buyer agent within your company.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason when I got started, I have enough business is like my assistant. I go, hey, you want to make 25% or whatever it is? You go show the houses and maybe write it up, but then we work together. So I say, congratulations. Right. So I'll meet a buyer now, even though I do, I don't show them houses unless an absolute emergency. So it's just like, hey, we want to know what you want. I want to know as the agent who might find the listing for you. Because if you like this neighborhood, we're going to go out and pound that neighborhood. Graham's going to show you the houses. He's going to write the offer up. We're both here as a team, but they're going to take the lead. They write the offers better. And then when it closes, just congratulations, or when they're in escrow or the contingency rule, you make those 3 or 4 calls, because if you're keeping them and not just totally referring them out, you do want to make the service calls and check-ins.
Okay, gotcha. So once you hit those important mile markers, you're still contacting them saying, congratulations, you now hit this milestone. We're one step closer to closing.
You got it.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Perfect.
Got it. Hal, as far as generating listing leads, what are your best sources?
Of my database. And what I would like to share with you guys is my jump, because again, small town, didn't know anybody, cold calling a lot, just listed, just sold. Once I learned to develop my sphere of influence, that made all the difference in the world for me. Okay. So example, my kids were young, now they're grown. coach the soccer team. I'll call the parents up. Hey, Blake, it's Hal. Yeah, from soccer. Good. Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm in the real estate business. Were you aware of that? They're going to say yes or no. Great. Hey, Blake, do you have a resource you can rely on and trust if you ever know of anyone that has questions or you do personally? Well, kind of the agent that sold us the house, might be the biggest no you get, or no, not really. Great. I would love to be that resource. Do you mind if I just touch base with you from time to time to see if you have any questions, need anything at all with regard to real estate? No, that'd be great. Oh, hey, Blake, do you mind if I just sent you a little intro email? I'll shoot you a business card just in case that pops into your head. No, that's fine. Great. And then boom, that is now a sphere of influence call. Okay. And then the key is to add value. So I got so many more people that liked me and knew me and they came to me. And then you keep in touch. And that's a great example of someone that sold 5 or 6 houses with me. If I wouldn't have just made that connection. So if you just start with your cell phone, your address book, your social organizations, whatever you do, if you're not doing that, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Okay. Add to that sphere of influence, call them regularly, be the resource for them, position yourself. If they need anything here or anywhere in the country, anything real estate, call me. Don't go to Google to look for a painter. I'm your Google. Call me if you need anything. Okay.
Great. That's great. It's great. Yeah, that's what I think of you as, Hal. You're my Googler.
Cool. I need a different
Hal, I have a question. Hal, who do you contact first in the morning, and in the evening, who do you get back to again from your morning list?
Really good. So at this juncture, I get a lot of people that call me, inquire. So I really just call my hottest leads first. Like my goal is to set an appointment in the first, 60 minutes I'm at the office. It's a great way to start the day, right? I have a few expireds, but not many, quite honestly. If they're not selling in this market, I mean, there's a bad attitude. It's like, okay, there's a problem child there, because anything reasonably priced here still is that way. That'll change. And then mostly it's database and lead follow-up. Okay. And then I'm really good at calling around listings and sales to this day because I've done it so many times. I gave a talk for Mike Ferry in 2016. I think I'd made 90,000 contacts and sold, whatever, I don't know, 2,000 homes or whatever it was at the time, which means, I failed 899 whatever times, but it's just calling the neighbors. And when I call around listings and sales, it's just like you go to a neighborhood party, maybe just met somebody and go, hey, did you know the Andersons are selling? No, really? They are? Yeah. Yeah, they're moving off to Kentucky. The house is listed for 2.5 million or whatever it is with 550,000. No way. Yeah. Gosh, have you heard of anybody's moving in the neighborhood? Oh, no, good. How about you? What's next for you in real estate? Well, I'm not sure. How long have you lived at this address? Where'd you move from? How'd you pick this area? If you were to move, where'd you go next? What would that be? Right. So it's just more like, instead of, hi, this is Hal with Century 21. I just listed a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, this, whatever. It's like, hey, Martha? Yeah, Martha. Hey, Martha, it's Hal with Keller Williams around the corner here. We just listed the Joneses house. Did you know that? Well, no or yes. Great. Oh, well, it's a little 4-bedroom, just calling to see who that might want to move in the area. If they're interested, they're going to ask you, well, how much is it? Where are they going to, where are they going? Right. But the basic questions, how about you? When do you plan on moving? Oh, never. Terrific. How long have you been here? 20 years? 20 years? No kidding. Where'd you guys move from? Oh, Banana Belt. How'd you pick this neighborhood? No. So it's a very natural conversation.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're at a cocktail party. Hey, you've been so nice. I know you don't know of anybody. You seem to know what's going on in the neighborhood. That's for the busybody, right? That knows everybody, right? Then I would potentially add them to a sphere. Gosh, you seem to know everybody in the neighborhood. You mind if I just touch base and see if you have any questions or let you know what else is happening? No, that'd be fine. They want to talk to you. So those are people that I may not know that I would potentially add to my sphere. Okay. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
So
can you do that for
I wanna-
sale by owner? Sorry, Robert.
In what
That's
way?
fine. Cut me off. Go ahead.
I didn't know that was possible. For an amiable to an expressive. Just kidding. Anyway, Hal, so that was great what you just did. And I think the little tweaks makes a big difference. I was wondering how you would do the for sale by owner so that it sounds more natural.
Just same thing, have a conversation, right? Gotcha. How long have you guys been doing this? Great. Where are you going? Cool. You're cooperating with real estate brokers? Boy, I'd love to see it. There's not much for sales. There's a good time to stop by, right? So again, just general questions, laugh with them, oh, you got, how'd you end up here? I worked at the university. Oh, no kidding. Which department are you in? Well, who do they want to talk about? Oh, I'm in biology. Oh, no way. Oh, so you retired, you're still working? I mean, it's okay to throw some of those more in. If you are engaging and interested enough, they will want to talk to you.
There you
That's
go.
great. Thank you.
So be engaging and interesting.
So we'll wrap up with this. Hal, is I've told you this story before and about what I said earlier about I think you're the best listing agent I know, and you told me one time it's just practice. So the last question, and someone had actually sent me this in the chat box as well, is how important is practice of the listing presentation to become an A+ listing presentation person, and how often should they be doing it?
So who are the highest paid people in the world?
Who are the highest paid people in the world?
Highest, would you say probably actors or athletes, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, sure.
that's one profession, right? And so if you were given a script to read for a movie, how well would you know that script?
Know it in 2 different languages.
Right?
100%.
Inside, outside. And if you just know it and can read the words, right? Do you absolutely have to sell your home? Okay, that's one way to read a script. Are you going to get the part?
No.
No. So the reason you get to know these dang scripts, and I started in the beginning, and I don't know when I cut off or when I started, so I'm going to repeat myself, but it will not hurt you to hear this again. Okay, is I went to so many prospecting schools, right? I memorized the scripts verbatim. Can you tell I know the just listed, just sold script?
Yes.
Do you know that I already know the answers to the scripts? Right,
Yes.
I've heard them all. Okay, so you know those. Okay, so you know the words. That's step one. Okay, now you just got into kindergarten. Step two is to give it with some sort of enthusiasm, with some sort of timing. Okay, and quite honestly, in 2011, I started doing like videos, like Viral came out, and you could do those little videos. So I was doing that, and I watched a couple of them, and I was like, oh my God. I am so serious and so dry and so freaking boring. This is frightening. Okay. Now, back then you needed somebody to hold a camera like this to video yourself. Now you just turn your camera on and do a selfie, right? Turn on. Please just record yourself. Listen to yourself on the phone, watch yourself, watch your face. Oh my God, your face. Oh, I mean, we all got one, but boy, they can be scary, right? So you just learn the things to say and do to people, right? So there's so many nuances you get with practice, okay, how to do it. And this is also why the reason you won't go further than you should. Oh, hi, Kathy Ashford. Oh my gosh. Hi, Kathy. The reason you won't go any higher, quite honestly, is you won't expose yourself to people that are better than you are. Okay. You got to be the sucky one in the group. Okay? If you want to be good at sports, you got to go against the best competition. Not all the time, right? Because you get beat up. Like my tennis coach uses put me some guys that are going to beat me, some I'm even with, and some that I can beat, right? But if you're not challenging yourself, you're not going to learn from the masters like, oh my gosh, that one little thing. They just did one thing. A little pause, a little smile. So I'm telling you guys, it's just not learning these words and knowing what to say. It is knowing how to present it. And that just takes time. But it helps everything else in your life if you are a human and want to communicate and get things from others. Okay, so there's a bigger payoff than a commission check.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, look, we're way over, so that's what happens when you work with an expressive. So I'll take the responsibility for this one, but I can't thank you enough. So everyone, do me a favor, unmute yourselves, give this man the
Thank you.
recognition he
Thank you.
deserves
Thank
for
you so
taking
much.
time out
Thank
of
you,
his
Hal.
day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure, you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. Al.
I hope you all have the best last 3 months of your in your life, and you guys can do that right now.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
You got the
you.
tools, you got a great company, you got all you need. It's just all right here. Good luck with that.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Al.
You're the man, buddy. Greatly
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Holiday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So what I want to do here is we're wrapping up. I love that, man. There's like some people in the world that I am just such large fans of, and He's one of them. Lee Marcus, Mike Darda, people like that you just meet over time that are just phenomenal. Gene Tanner, even though she told me I was, even though she told me I was uneducated.
Yeah, mute yourself.
What are you gonna do? What did we get out of that? I know there was some technical difficulties. I appreciate you all sticking around. What did we get out of that? What were some of the takeaways that you got from that?
Practice makes perfect. Practice, 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 relax, and let it go and be yourself.
So, yeah, the practice thing, the way that story goes with Hal is when I did tell him that you're the best listening agent I know, and he said it's just practice, and I said, well, how often do you still practice? And he said every day, and he says I do a presentation with my team. So here's what I want you to think about. This is a guy that's been doing 100 deals a year, 100 listings a year for 20 years in California, okay? And he still practices the listing presentation all the time. Now, has anyone here had 20 straight years of 100 listings? Okay. So if he's still practicing to get better, should you be practicing your listing presentation on a regular basis?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, it's just it's the most obvious thing. So good. Blanca says, have fun. Yeah. He said he was too, and you could tell that he's a very serious guy. It's just his demeanor. But sometimes that's the way it goes. So record yourselves because you might not know. Anyone here have ever recorded yourself and realized there's a certain word you say that you had no idea you said 80,000 times a minute?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
not that.
What was the word? What were the words? Well,
Perfect.
I want you all to know something. What'd you say, Melinda?
My word is perfect. I say it a lot.
Perfect.
I just keep laughing too much, and that's not good because
Who
I'll say something and then I'll chuckle all the time.
said awesome?
I did.
Okay, so Joyce,
That's
you and
yours.
I are the awesome people. And what I just mentioned about Gene Tanner, who I love, I really do love Gene Tanner. She said, Robert, awesome is such an uneducated word. And I went, thanks. So she thanks, Gene.
Like it is.
And so anyways, but you don't know that unless you record yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I will tell you, a lot of you, as Blanca was at least the one that was honest about it, it's going to be And if I've said this to people 1,000 times, and some of you think I'm nuts. Okay. The two letters that will destroy your business the fastest are U and M. Will you cut your commission? Well, we don't like your price. Okay, it's over. And so I catch those things when I watch these presentations, and some of you think I'm crazy by harping on the It's really, really important. Okay, so good stuff. But yes, have some fun. Have some fun with it. Gotta have some fun.
Robert, what's fun is that we have this follow-up boss CRM, and we can listen to our conversations with our clients.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That helped me a lot.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Way to go, Bruce. Way to bring it up.
Mhm. We're our
Now-
worst critics here.
Now I gotta send out 2 checks. All right, what else? What else did we get? What else did we get out of what Hal was talking
I
about?
thought the assumptive sales technique that he mentioned was absolutely amazing, and I think it's the best way to sell personally, and that he uses it at such a high level was really impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've never heard anyone do the prequel that way, with all the assumptive phrases about that. I've heard Mike do the plan of action. Well, what do you do to get home sold? Well, the first thing we do is we put it on the MLS. Do you know what the MLS? You do want me to do that, right? Oh yeah, I want you to do that. Like getting people to say the yeses. I never heard anyone do it the prequel the way Hal did. I agree with you. I thought that was really great. I was trying to write it down as he was saying it, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because there was a lot of really good stuff there.
But it's almost more of a mindset though, the way that like it's in his lingo, but it was more of just a mindset of because he's so confident, because he's been doing it for so long, right? And he's had such high level of success he's assuming that they're going to list with him. Like, and all of us can do that. We just have to program our mind to be assumptive in that sense. And I think that when you do it naturally, confidence comes out and you position yourself more likely to get the deal, quite frankly.
Well, and it reminded me as he was saying this, there's a guy in South Carolina, Century 21 guy, Greg Harrelson, who is used to be a coach, big agent. And he talked about that when he's prospecting, if he gets past the first 4 questions on the script, that he's already got the appointment. The rest of the conversation is just to decide if he wants to go. Like that's his mentality. If we're 4 questions in, I got the appointment. I'm just now continuing the script, see if I still actually want to go. But that is the assumptive mentality, and that's what Hal said. Going to Keith's point, he said when you go into the prequal, go in with the assumption that you already have the listing, and so you're just now being assumptive about it. And so when you do it that way and you ask all those questions, that was the point. That was the other point, that his prequel is so detailed that by the time he gets to the presentation, we're really just negotiating price at that point. Right? Everything else is done. We've already figured it all out. So yeah, that was great. What else did we get from Al today?
I think that he mastered it so much. He practiced and he went so deep and he put part of himself, and then he mastered it in a way that is it's very hard to find somebody that does at that level, to be honest.
No, it
Yeah.
is. But what I want to go back and Tess, I'll get you next. What I want to go back to the very beginning about all these nuances and things like that. One of the things he said at the very beginning was, you can only do these things if you do the script enough times. And so what I would say to all of you is, because you might not be going on 10 presentations a month. Okay, so you're not doing the actual live listing presentation enough to get these down. So what I would say is you have to practice the listing presentation. But what I'm talking about practicing is find agents in the office, and 3-4 times a week, at minimum once a week. If you're not doing it once a week, it's crazy. But try to do as many times a week where you're actually role playing the listing presentation. Because if you role play the listing presentation twice a week, and you did that for say 45 weeks a year, you will have done the presentation 90 times. Okay. Now, if you did the presentation in practice 90 times and you took it seriously every time, do you think that's going to help you get better to get more live presentations?
Of course.
Yeah. Can you do more nuances and things like that? So that, going back to the beginning, he said you can only do those things if you're doing the script enough times. So role play the listing presentation as many times as possible. But here's the key, and he didn't say this, but it's one of my all-time favorite things about practice. Okay, this is really important. Poor practice, no matter how much you do, will not make you any better. Okay, so when you're role playing the listing presentation, give the person a CMA. Here's the CMA, so they know what the address is, what the property is. They got all the information. They've got the comps, and you're ready to go. And you're taking it as serious as possible. I get it, the adrenaline's not running, so it's not going to be as live as it can be, but you got to take it as serious as possible. That's how you're going to get better. Tess, go ahead.
Yeah, there's 2 things that I picked up on that. Always give people choices. I like that. That was really good. And then the other one is isolating the objection.
Yeah, boy, isolating the objection. I wonder where else we hear that kind of thing. Every day in role play. I mean, it's called a box in close. But no, Tess, you're 100% right. The isolation, for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Neil actually wrote that script.
Please record your message.
For those of you that don't know, Neil wrote the box in script. That was part of the coaching that he did. And that's what Hal's referring to. When they give you an objection, don't rush to answer the objection. Great. other than commission, do you have any other questions? Other than price, do you have any other questions? Other than the fact that I take advantage of little old ladies, which I know it sounds funny because it's like how Sweasey doesn't take advantage of little old ladies. But you have to do that because if you don't, if you just handle the objection, what are they going to do after they give you another objection? Or what are they going to do after you handle the objection?
They're going to give you another objection. Yeah.
Well, I'm concerned about the price. Okay, great. Let's talk about the price. And then you think you're ready to close, and then they say, "What about commission?" That's like, and it can go on and on. Box in, close every time. Or as Tess says, isolate the objection. Huge, good stuff. Veronica, are you gonna say something?
Robert.
Yes, Tess. You're more than welcome to say something.
Here's the thing. One thing I like when you're doing these classes is that you talk about humor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about when you're doing these classes, you make jokes that sometimes that people are like, okay, that's funny. It's not like something formal all the time, which he would put humor in the conversation, which I think is really great. It's breaking the ice.
Yeah. Look, it's especially with sellers, I mean, I guess buyers too, it's a very tense situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's their largest asset by a lot. Okay. I mean, most people's largest assets their home, which could be 600, 700 million plus dollars. And then their next largest assets their car, which is $50,000, $60,000 in most cases. So it's by a large amount their largest asset. That's a tense moment. And so that's what he was talking about. He was too tense. Well, they're tense. I'm tense. You have to do some things to break the ice a little bit. You got to have some fun, which is why I brought up, I saw him do the one time when he was talking about price. Look, it's not the agents that determine the price. It's those buyers, those darn buyers. That's what he did in the presentation, right? To kind of break the ice a little. Darn buyers, right? So you have to do those little types of things. Now, no one here should try to be a stand-up comedian, okay, during the presentation. And every single little ice-breaking thing you do should be scripted. So like when I tell jokes, when I'm doing my presentations, every one of those jokes is in my notes. Okay. When Hal is doing humor, I guarantee you it's written in his script or in the notes on his page. Oh, use this line right here. Okay. So don't try to wing it. Otherwise, this could go down a really dark path really quickly. But yeah, you have to break the ice a little bit. You have to instill some humor, some relaxation. But it goes back to the beginning. It's tonality.
Because I could sit conversation.
I could sit here and go, all right, Mr. Seller, one of three things will happen tonight. Number one, I'll decide to list your house. Number two, you'll decide not to list with me. Number three, I decide not to take your listing. Any one of those three is fine. And they're going, holy crap. Like, I'm already tense, and this is like boot camp, right? But if you say it as Randy just said in the conversation, look, one of three things is going to happen tonight. One, you'll decide to list with me, and then it's conversational, right?
Right.
It's all about that. All right,
Veronica, being comfortable.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Anything else before we wrap up here?
Great job, Robert. Great job.
Yes, Veronica. Thank you.
So what I noticed about Hal is that before he goes out to meet the people in person, he goes through the prequal and he is talking like he's assuming the listing already. Did you guys catch that?
Yep. That's the mindset.
He's already talking to them. Yeah, like he's already talking to them, like if they're already ready to list with him. And he has question after question, so that he's well prepared to when he arrives to make sure that they realize that he was listening the entire time. I think that gets some huge win.
Yep, absolutely.
It's analytical, right?
Yes, he is.
Very analytical.
Yep.
Analytical driver.
So
for me,
yes, Betty, go ahead.
Hi. For me, it was the part that he said about being less attached to the buyers and then using the listing to generate buyers. I hadn't heard it put that way.
Yep.
Yeah, so I appreciated that.
Yep. Like when you get to the point of trying to take 15, 20, 25, 30 listings, that you are going to have to limit the amount of buyers you work with. And then when you get to 50 listings, you're probably going to have to get rid of them altogether.
Yeah.
It's just that you just can't stay consistent with it.
Yeah, I thought that was
Good stuff. I want to just point out something here, mainly because I say this all the time and nobody listens. But now that Hal said it, maybe we'll catch on to it. Who are the first people he calls in the day? Who are the first people he calls?
It's
Calls his
Lead
leads.
follow.
Yeah.
He calls his leads first thing in the morning.
But
Now,
he
I
said
want you to
database.
think about this, okay? I want you to think about this and then we'll wrap up, okay? Because I say this to people all the
No,
time. Your
Laura?
first calls in the morning should be your leads. When are you typically the most focused, motivated, and determined?
In the morning.
In the morning. Who are the best people who are the best people most likely to close the deal with you? What source?
The hot
Lead.
Your leads. Why would after I play Call of Duty? Thanks, Aaron. When I'm at my highest level of focus, determined, and motivation, why wouldn't I call my highest source of income? But instead, what people do, I'm super motivated, I'm super excited, I'm super pumped up. Let me call some angry expireds.
Oh, yeah.
And then they hang up on you. And then by the time you get to your leads, your most likely income source, your energy levels down a little bit, your motivation's down a little bit, your mindset's down a little bit. And so I'm calling my most likely source for an income check when I'm not at my very best. It makes no sense whatsoever. So you should call your leads first. And then he said, then I call my database because that's probably where most of the leads come from. So I'm calling them when I'm still at my peak. And then he said, I don't really call expireds because in our marketplace, if you're expired, you're probably a problem child. Gee, does that sound like any other market?
Yeah.
I say these things all the time. But maybe now that Hal said it, it will resonate with some people that that's the system to follow in the morning. And it's just crazy to me that people, and not only that with the expires, not only are you giving up your highest level of motivation, you're also putting your license on the line because most of you are trying to call at like 7 a.m. I got to be first. Well, you're not allowed to call till 8. So great. So you're putting your license on the line for someone that's not motivated to sell, really.
There's a call time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there. Really? There's a set call time, like 8 o'clock?
You're only allowed to prospect from 8 to 8.
Oh, I've never heard that. Thank
Now, the chances of somebody reporting you are not very good, but when it comes to expires, I'll call them at 7 because I want to be first. Okay, great. Good for you. You do that. I'm going to role play and then call my leads. And then I'm probably going to get more paychecks. But you go do your thing. You put your license on the line, get angry with people, and then call your leads when you're totally bummed out. Crazy stuff. All right, very good. All right, well, I appreciate everyone hopping on here. We had a good group, which means I can get him back because he did this as a favor for me. But if there was only going to be 40 people, my favors don't go very far. All right, very good.
All right, thanks, Robert.
Robert, before you hang up, just recently,
I turn your speaker off.
Yeah. All right. Well, when she gets back, I'll handle that question, whatever it may be. All right, everybody. We got open mic still this afternoon. We got Emma, Mark, Frank, 3 and 3:30 and 4 are wide open. If anyone wants to do some open mic at that time. If nobody does any open mic, maybe I'll just kind of hang around and you can ask me anything. All right, everyone. Good stuff. Thanks for being here. Take some notes and off we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.